Remember a couple weeks ago when everybody was like, Amazon is gonna buy EA? And then a few months before that, everyone was like, Apple is gonna buy EA. And for like a decade before that, everyone was like, EA sucks. Nobody should buy them. I've been thinking about EA a lot recently, largely because EA is making it very obvious that they want to be bought. Like, they are just short of making a Tinder profile hoping somebody would swipe right on them. It'd be one of those horror profiles like, I'm looking for a good, honest woman to support my lifestyle. I will not change. I have 30 kids that are the absolute worst, and I will charge you microtransactions for affection. Someone is going to buy EA, whether it's a big company looking to get bigger or someone answering their Facebook Marketplace listing. They are very desperate. The question is who? And that's what this video is about, because while I don't like corporate consolidation, I do like having opinions on companies that affect my entertainment, and I like talking about it with people like you. We are going to cover some of the bigger companies that have been floated to buy EA, some of the wild card guesses that people are making, and then I'll share my thoughts on who I think maybe should buy EA. I think it's a bombshell, really. So let's get into it. First off, we're going to lay some groundwork. EA is worth roughly $35 billion. That number varies a bit depending on which Google result that doesn't cite their sources you believe, but the general estimate is around $35 billion. So short of them just merging with another similar size company, whoever buys them has to have some cash laying around. And although EA is consistently one of the most hated companies in America, they own and touch a lot of stuff that people don't hate all the time, even though they hate it a lot of the time, and we'll get into that later. But EA owns a lot of franchises. I'm talking your Need for Speeds, your Battlefields, your Apexes, even your Sim family and your Sim house that you made so you could simulate a normal life in this collapsing global economy. They own that. And that's worth $35 billion to somebody. We're gonna start with Apple because they have $2 trillion, an amount of money I can't even comprehend. Back in May, rumors started floating around that Apple was considering purchasing EA to bolster its Apple Arcade business. Neither Apple or EA confirmed this, but you know, whenever you have $2 trillion, you can at least window shop for everything in the world. According to 9to5Mac, Apple Arcade, Apple's $5 a month gaming subscription service, will bring in $1.2 billion annually for Apple in 2025. 3 years from now, it'll crack $1 billion. That is literally beer money for a company Apple size. By comparison, Apple Music will bring in around $7 billion, and across the board, all their services, including Apple TV, the App Store, Arcade, News, Music, all of it, that'll bring in around $20 billion. So spending $35 billion on an embattled brand like EA to bolster your business that rakes in around $1 billion now seems a little wonky. But none of that matters, because I don't think Apple was ever going to buy EA, just based on one small fact, which is they don't buy anything, ever. If Apple took you out to dinner and the check came, they would stare at you until you paid, and then they would take a 30% cut of the bill just so you could sit at the table with them. Apple's only substantial public purchase was for Beats by Dre, and that was for less than $5 billion. It's still just a crazy fucking stupid amount of money. I think the biggest tell that Apple was never going to buy EA is that Apple had the chance to buy Warner Bros. As they were starting to build up their content business for Apple TV, and they didn't buy them. Apple doesn't like any baggage that comes from companies and brands that's not Apple. And who has more baggage than EA? If Apple didn't want Batman because it might not reflect well on the brand, do you think they're gonna put up with whatever the happened to Mass Effect Andromeda? Probably not. So who does have a few $1 billion laying around and does spend it on stupidly expensive vanity projects? Amazon. You need to drop a few $100 million on a TV show? Amazon has your back. You need a few billion for a robot vacuum that maps everyone's home? Amazon has the dough. You need $35 billion for a gaming company? I don't know. A few weeks ago, due to some shoddy reporting, everybody thought that Amazon was for sure going to buy EA for like an hour. And it was the first time anyone was ever happy that EA existed. Amazon has a weird relationship with gaming, but you could say that about literally any market. They have a weird relationship with diapers also. I actually want to do a whole separate video on Amazon's gaming ecosystem, so if you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments. Actually, side note, while we're already here, if you're enjoying this video so far and you would like to see more stuff like this, please let me know in the comments. And consider subscribing to the channel. I like talking about media things, and I'll keep doing. I'm not going to rule out Amazon fully, largely because of some vague booking that happened whenever Amazon denied purchasing EA a few weeks ago. And while their largest acquisition so far was for Whole Foods for $13 billion, I think Microsoft dropping $70 billion for Activision has changed the tone of the conversation. Like, there are only a few companies of this size that you could even buy in the gaming space. And to me, it's so painfully hilarious that EA is throwing themselves at literally everyone and nobody is enthusiastic about it. Like, we're this close to EA acting like an incel online and wondering why mega corporations won't give a nice gaming company like them a chance. So that made me start to wonder, should we give EA a chance? A lot of the conversation around EA getting acquired focuses on whether some mega corporation has the money and the will to spend $35 billion on a company so hated even my mom knows not to buy my nephew FIFA games unless she wants to give him a gambling addiction at 13. In just a minute, I'm going to tell you who I think should buy EA, but buying EA isn't just buying a shitty brand like everybody thinks. It's buying that brand's shitty games, good games, sorry. Or a better way of framing it, you're buying that brand's IP. You're buying stories originally told as video games that could be turned into franchises, movies, TV shows, interactive experiences, theme parks, and inevitably porn, but don't worry, other people will do that for you. And as hated as they are, EA owns a lot of IP. Just to name a few, Apex Legends, Battlefield, The Sims, Mass Effect, Need for Speed, Skate, Plants vs. Zombies, Dead Space, Mirror's Edge, Peggle, Dragon Age, Grid Legends, Medal of Honor. And while some of those franchises don't have great public perception, like Battlefield 2042 really lives up to its name if 2042 is the player count, I don't think that these are unsalvageable brands, especially if your pitch as the company that buys them is, we will make them not suck. Enough people will believe that and you will make billions of dollars, whether it's true or not. All the above franchises can be converted into other mediums. A Plants vs. Zombie kids movie, a Battlefield war drama set in the future, a Mirror's Edge show people complain is too woke. And EA has dabbled with converting their IP into other stuff. There's a Dragon Age animated show on Netflix. There's an Aaron Paul Need for Speed movie, and whatever that Sims reality show was they did for BuzzFeed. But somebody better at it could do a better job. And if you're a big media company who owns a lot of big movies and TV franchises yourself, you're also buying the infrastructure to turn your TV shows and movies into video games, which is a thing EA has done poorly for a lot of other people. But they have done it, and that is a little valuable. So to me, the question becomes, who gets the most value actually by purchasing EA? Who needs it the most? I'm going to rapid fire through a couple companies and my thoughts. I'm just going to get them out of the way so we can move on. Number one, Microsoft. No, I don't think they like being in regulatory court that much, and at this point, I don't even think that they could. Facebook/Meta, a similar deal. I think they have a bunch of other headaches and not just the ones caused by wearing an Oculus for too long. Comcast. This was another company that was floated to merge with EA a few months ago. I just don't see an upside for either of them. Like, sure, Comcast owns Universal, which makes a bunch of big movies, but they don't really dabble in games that much. The other big one that gets brought up all the time, of course, is Sony. I don't think so, but maybe. I don't know. If Sony wants to go head-to-head with Microsoft on acquisitions, this is one of the few options that is still on the table. I just don't really have a sense of how much they are willing to spend. And sure, there's always the possibility EA will get bought up by some umbrella investment group that owns a bunch of stuff and isn't a public-facing company, like a Tencent or an Embracer Group. But that's less fun to talk about, and I also don't see that as the best-case scenario. It sort of feels like they just, settled for someone. Like, it's not a loving, exciting relationship. It's more like they married somebody because they have a stable job. Embracer Group is not that handsome, but the retirement portfolio means we can travel to Europe in retirement. So, who does that leave? I think, personally, two companies. One is a safer bet, one is a gamble. I think both need them for similar but not exactly the same reasons. I think EA fits with both of their ambitions in different ways. Both of these companies, if they are serious about leading the media industry for the next 20 years, will need to buy a company like EA. And they are Disney and Netflix. Exciting, right? The two big companies that buys up everything, just buys more things. Fucking awesome. Let's start with Netflix, why it fits and what they gain from purchasing EA. Netflix has a lot of game-related content already. Resident Evil, which was canceled. The Witcher, which please don't comment saying the series is actually based on the books. I get it. I know it's based on the game. Arcane, Cyberpunk, they have a lot. Netflix also has a budding game service with small arcade games, but less than 1% of their users actually use it. Most people can't even find it, and everybody involved thinks that it's a little dumb. But Netflix also lacks something that EA has. Huge IP. Sure, Netflix has Stranger Things and Squid Games, and they will soon have more Stranger Things. But when it comes to movies and a lot of the TV shows, they have few culturally defining pieces of content relative to their size and popularity. And they cannot make a Ryan Reynolds movie hit for the life of them, no matter what they say. If Netflix's ambition is to build up globally recognizable franchises that have an interactive element, and they say their main competition is Fortnite, why not just buy a competitor to Fortnite and make an action-packed show even our mom watches once and then spends hundreds of dollars on in-game skins right on the Netflix homepage? Then make a stoner comedy with Seth Rogen Rogen and Timothée Chalamet set in the world of Skate. Please. There's so much they could do. They could even make a Dead Space movie for dad and throw in Peggle into their arcade ecosystem for the kiddos. Do people still play Peggle? I don't know. I'm sorry I keep bringing it up. Netflix has a lot to gain if it buys EA, but I think ultimately Disney has a lot to lose if they don't buy EA. And I'd like to remind you, I'm not pro Disney buying EA. I'm not pro EA getting bought. I'm not pro EA. I'm actually not pro anything, but I think that's just depression. But I do think if someone is going to buy them, the people who need them the most is Disney. For as large and as interactive and imposing as Disney is, they historically do not have a big gaming footprint. At least not like a good one. For owning the biggest media franchises, the Marvels, the Star Wars, the Pixars, the everything else, they license all of their stuff to other companies, and it has been awful for them, actually in part because of EA. But just because they may get lucky with Gameloft making a good Animal Crossing knockoff, they also miss out when the Avengers game falls flat on its face, or Star Wars Battlefront falls flat on its face, or every mobile game they put out falls flat on its face. Disney is one of the few companies that can get people to pay $20 to sit in a theater. They are one of the few companies that can get you to pay $11 a month to watch a Marvel show that nobody is really that thrilled about. They can get families to spend thousands of dollars to go to Florida. But when it comes to immersive interactions with their brands, it is a scattershot with no quality control. And that is a problem for Disney. Because while they are booming right now, they had a 2-year dip in their parks business because of the pandemic. And when the next recession makes it harder to justify $4,000 a night in a Star Wars themed hotel, it might be easier and cheaper to keep kids engaged with a free-to-play Star Wars shooter that they spend $200 on for a Baby Yoda skin. I know there's obviously a lot of questions about Disney's ability to have quality control with their sprawling media empire. And bringing in a few thousand employees to an industry that they've never really worked in before is, let's just say, hard. But actually, I think EA is the best fit for Disney. One, Disney likes scale. They like buying big things. EA is big. A few of EA's franchises actually, to me, feel right at home with Disney. Games like It Takes Two, Lost in Random, Plants vs. Zombies. All this feels friendly to the Disney persona. Plus, more importantly, they will need the ability to spin up Star Wars and Marvel games, which EA has done for them before, and granted that had mixed results, but that relationship is already there. And I haven't even touched sports at all. So if you've been watching this entire video and you've been screaming at the screen wondering why, please leave a nice comment below. I just got to it. I'm sorry. Even though they are hated, EA has the sports games. EA Sports. It's in the name. It's in the game. And Disney has ESPN and ABC, which runs American football. That sounds like pretty good synergy to me. And if nothing else, with the price of sports rights ballooning the way they are, having the largest sports news brand and gaming franchises is a pretty good place to be in wherever you're negotiating the price of those rights. So look, I'm not saying Disney is going to announce at D23 that they are buying EA. I just think if they stay averse to interactive media for much longer, the opportunity to compete at scale quickly is going to pass them by. And if Disney CEO Bob Chapek, the person with the least describable features alive, a guy who comes from the park side of the company, wants to leave his mark on the Disney legacy, being the guy who leads them into the interactive media age is a pretty good way of doing it. Anyways, everybody, those are my thoughts. I was just reading some news headlines and thought I'd make a video about it. I thought it was a fun little topic. Please let me know in the comments down below if you'd like to see more things like this. If you have any thoughts about the contents of this video too, I'd absolutely love to hear them. And I'd like to do more of these, so please subscribe and let me know. All right, I'll see you all next time.